Think. Act. And prosper. You are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Money Level Show, where we think, act, and prosper. This channel is to help ordinary people achieve financial freedom. So I thank you for coming here, especially if you're new. Today we're going to talk about the retirement crisis and talk about what does this actually look like for us. I mean, obviously everybody who watches this channel is at different ages. Me, myself, I'm 35. May have some people that are younger, or the younger crowd, they probably like Bitcoin or whatnot, which I like Bitcoin too, but you know, they may just be more into that. But as we talk about sound investing, this is something that we have to consider. You know, will we retire? And so we're going to look at some alarming statistics, some alarming data that really shows like, hey, this may not be as likely as we think it is. And we may need to save a lot more and be a lot more wise with our finances in order to get to this point. But let's get into it. Okay, so the first, so excuse all the tabs here. The first, we're looking at Citizens Bank, and this is going to share pretty much how much do you need to actually retire. So let's go ahead and look into it. So rules of thumb, everyone has different needs, wants, goals for retirement. So there isn't a one size fits all plan that will work in any scenario, which is true. You know, some people may, live in a bigger house, and it's like, okay, well, do you want to finance this? Do you want to pay your monthly mortgage on this bigger house? Or, you know, do you have the house paid off? Or do you want to downsize? You know, so like retirement can look different for a lot of people. So like if you have a bigger house, which I had some friends who had a bigger house, but they were in their 70s and they were like, hey, we need to sell this and downsize. So they moved to a condo. So those are different components that you have to think about when you're thinking about retirement. So different needs and wants obviously are going to vary depending on the person. Some people like a nice car. Some people may be fine with just paying off a car and sticking with that vehicle. So it just kind of depends on how you are as a person with your money, right? So it says, thankfully, financial professionals have created a few rules of thumb over the years that have varying pros and cons, but give more than enough. I'm saying this wrong. But give more insight than save as much as you can. These can help you answer how much do I need to retire. So the first thing is the final multiple. This is 10 to 12 times your annual income at retirement age. If you plan to retire at 67, for instance, and your income is $150,000 per year, then you should have between 1.5 and 1.8 million set aside for retirement. So as you can see, that's a lot of money, right? And then if you're thinking about like, hey, you know, I make $150,000 a year. Obviously having 1.8 million, you know, is pretty sufficient if you're able to live frugal, you know, on your retirement. I mean, because people can probably live at, you know, with 40,000 a year, depending on where you live and depending on if your house is paid off or whatnot. So you have all these different varying factors, right? But if you have, you know, less expenses or whatnot, you could probably make that work. I'm sure you could. So that's a wise thing to do, you know, to have 10 to 12 times your annual income, right? Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt this interview, but I want to let you know about this important resource, the Rule Symposium. The link is in my bio. Be sure to click that link and check out the site for the Rule Symposium. This is a symposium that Rick Rule puts on every year. From this year, it's going to be from July 23rd through the 27th, and you're going to be able to hear from some of the best in the space. You're going to be able to shake hands with some of the best in the space. He's going to have guests and presenters such as Jim Rickards, Nomi Prinz, Rick Rule himself, and many others. And these are going to be people that have built billion-dollar businesses, people that have made a lot of money in investing in the natural resource space. So be sure to click the link in the bio so that you can check out the Rule Symposium. That is the Rule Symposium. Check it out. And I appreciate you all for clicking that link and supporting the channel in that way. So those are some things you want to consider. Other things you want to consider is like, hey, are you on a 401k? Are you on a pension? Things of that nature. There's a problem with underfunded pensions right now. So this is playing into the retirement crisis and exacerbating it. So pretty much Investopedia talks about an underfunded pension plan is a company-sponsored retirement plan that has more liabilities than assets. In other words, the money needed to cover current and future retirements is not readily available. This means there is no assurance that future retirees will receive the pensions they were promised, or that current retirees will continue to get their previously established distribution amount. So that means that it's not promised, right? And so we have to take that into account. Yeah, you want to have 10 to 12 times your annual salary, but if you're relying on your pension, like, hey, I got my pension, that's not guaranteed. So we're going to look more into that as well. So let's look at this site called Equable. I think that's how you say it. Unfunded liabilities for state pension plans. So I think how the key works here is, less than 60%. These are the states that are very underfunded. So like Illinois, I think that's not West Virginia. Is that West Virginia or Virginia? West Virginia. I think so. I think that's West. No, I think that's Kentucky. Y'all, I'm trying to read a map without without having the actual names there. And you look at Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, all these different areas. I think this is South Carolina. So these areas are underfunded. Hawaii. Then you look at the green, which these are 90 to 100% funded, which I live in Washington State, so I'm glad I'm in the green. Colorado, and all these other places, right? And then these are average, Texas, Oklahoma, and such, and so those are, average would be the light blue, but the dark blue is like, okay, you may be in good shape. I think you're likely in good shape, better shape than the others. So that's important to note. Other things that are important to note is that the government is broke, and we had articles come out stating that Social Security, the reserves are going to run out within 10 years. And so that's alarming to hear. Like, hey, I'm 35 and I'm paying into Social Security, and, I can't retire till I'm 67 years old. And that age is probably going to be pushed up when I get older. So those are a lot of things that you got to consider, right? And this is an old article from Harvard, and they talk about how the pension plans are in trouble. And so they say that over the past several years, estimates of the total size of the public pension problem in the U.S. have ranged from $730 billion in unfunded liabilities to $4.4 trillion. And I can only imagine that number has grew even more, right? And so this is some more updated data, but it's saying that public pension plans in the U.S. are available to a wide range of workers, including teachers, blah, blah, blah. There's at least $6.3 trillion in future retirement benefits promised to the public employees who are members of the largest 228 public retirement systems. But nationally, just $4.9 trillion has been set aside to pay those benefits. So that looks like it is a $1.4 trillion deficit in terms of these pensions. And this is just the largest 228 public retirement systems. This doesn't include the whole shebang, right? And this is just pensions, right? We're not talking about Social Security, because almost everybody's promised Social Security, and we all pay into it, if you live in the United States. So those are some of the things that you have to think about. So looking at this, you can see the different states and what shape they are in. Obviously, the worst state is Kentucky, and Illinois, so like Kentucky is underfunded. I think that's 38 billion. Illinois is underfunded, $204 billion. I think I'm reading that right. Estimated unfunded liabilities. The state I am in is they're actually positive $26 billion. And so, yeah, this is very alarming, y'all. This is very alarming information, and it's important to note. So pensions aren't promised. Social Security isn't promised. If you have a 401k, obviously that's based off how the market does and such. And so, and depending on what investments you're in, right? And so this is the average savings for retirement in 401ks that people have. And this was, let's see, when was this taken? This was, let's see, so many ads in here, 2023. So this is pretty recent, right? So age 20 to 29, the average balance is $10,500. Contribution rate 7%. 30 to 39, $38,400. Contribution rate is 8%. In the 40s, $93,400. 50s, $160K, 60s, $182K, then the 70s down to $171K. So, just do the math, right? Right. How much do you make per year? Times that by 10 or 12, and that's how much you need. And this is the average balance that people have in their retirement accounts. Obviously, with the market down right now, this is a lot lower, but still, just even to be 10 times that, that's a huge percentage gain that would have to happen. So this is very alarming. And other things we have to think about is how long inflation is here for, right? I think inflation's here for at least a decade, and it's going to continue to go up, down, up, down, up, down. But inflation continues to remain sticky. I think the price of energy is going to go up. Obviously, people are locking in interest rates at 6, 7, 8% on mortgages, right? And that's a problem because when are rates going to go down? When is the Fed going to cut rates? So those are some things that we have to consider, being in, the United States. I think this is a worldwide issue, but I'm just focusing on the United States right now. And these are some things we have to consider, right? And I decided to even jump in the history of retirement. I recently had Peter Grandage on, and he spoke about retirement not really being a thing until the 1800s. And so this was a cool article I found talking about how the Romans started the first pension scheme. And this started in 13 BC. The Romans actually paid this to the people that were in the armed forces, in the military. And so if they served 20 years, they would have pensions that were financed by regular taxes, and then they added a 5% inheritance tax. So the people that were protecting the nation got pensions, but this wasn't widely available to everybody. The article talks about the Germans in 1645 started giving it to widows of priests or pastors, then widows for teachers, widows fund for teachers and such. And so then it says it took another 200 years before broad civilian pensions became common. So this was in 1662. So they didn't really become common until the 1800s. And so just looking at this, okay, well, a lot of people had to work, for a long time, unless you had a business that works for you. If you had a business that works for you, or real estate income that brings you passive income, then you could retire. If you're not, then you couldn't retire. That's just what it was. And so I just kind of want to give some tips for what I'm going to be doing, knowing this information. The first thing is that I'm going to be investing in energy. Right? Energy and commodities. I just think that these are going to go high, and I think that I can make a lot of money doing that. Right? I can get a good percentage on dividends and such. And so I'm going to be investing in energy, right? Another thing is that I'm going to be buying more gold. That's something that I consider savings. I believe that it is going to go up over time. And I believe that it's a good investment, to store value and to have extra money that's outside the system. I'm going to be buying Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is something that, could go up to 100,000, $1 million or something. I mean, I'm not super like, oh, everything Bitcoin, but, I think that that's an asset that you can cash out and make money from, right? The other thing I'm going to be doing is really focused on getting other rental properties. People need housing. I currently have one rental property that brings passive income. And so I want to accumulate more rental properties to get more income. And I think if we head towards another crash, a big crash, I want to be in position to take advantage of that. And another thing is that I want to build a business. So I want to make sure that my businesses are thriving. So for example, this channel, I need to consider it as a business. How can I build this and make passive income? And these are some things that you should think about as well. How can you make passive income from your business? How can you make passive income from investments, real estate, and such? So if you have any things that you're doing right now, be sure to leave that in the comment section down below. This is a serious issue, and I think that we all need to be paying attention to it. And I hope that we all can come together as a community and share knowledge and wisdom with each other, what we're doing, and so that we can make it through what's ahead. So I want to thank you all for joining the Money Level Show today, and y'all take it easy. All right, peace.